and welcome to Studio from Home with the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. My name is Bess, and I'm going to show you a fun and simple art activity that you can do at home. For step-by-step instructions for this and many other art activities, please visit the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia website. Today, I'm going to show you how you can go sketching at home and make a drawing that looks something like this. This activity is based on the artwork Sackville River by Arthur Lismer from the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia's permanent collection. Lismer got inspired to paint this landscape by going outside and sketching. A sketch is a quick drawing of the things you see around you, and it's a great way to put ideas on paper. After Lismer made sketches of this river, he brought them back to his studio, and that's where he made this final painting. Today, we're going to take inspiration from Lismer's process and try our hand at sketching indoors. Even though I'm inside, I can still sketch what I see, which for me is an urban landscape outside of my window. To do this activity at home, you'll need paper, cardboard, scissors, tape, and then maybe some tea bags, turmeric, highlighters, and a paintbrush would be useful. I recommend bringing out any and every drawing material that you can find. This includes everything from watercolor paint to ballpoint pens and whiteout. Honestly, whatever you have at hand. Variety is the spice of life, and if you don't think it'll be useful, I still suggest that you just bring it out because having lots of options will kind of help to get your creative juices flowing. To begin, you're going to start by taping down sheets of paper to sturdy cardboard. So, if you have like a clipboard or a sketchbook, honestly that would work too. But what I like about using cardboard is that you can kind of improvise and you can cut all different types of shapes and sizes. So I have a few different examples here. And like I said, variety is really kind of like the spice of life. So I highly recommend just giving this a try. So, I have used paper that I've cut out of a sketchbook today. If you have watercolor paper at home, that is ideal. You really just want to use the thickest paper that you have, but we're working with what we have at home. So even if you just have white computer paper, that is still going to be perfect. It's still going to work. I'm using Scotch tape today to tape down my paper, again, because that's what I have at home. But if you have masking tape or painter's tape, that'll work too. I'm taping down these pieces of paper by taping along all four edges of the paper. Okay, I like to do this so that the paper doesn't get warped, okay, so it kind of helps to keep the paper flat. And it also will give you a nice white border at the end. When you take the tape off, you'll have like a nice kind of crisp white border. So that's the way that I like to do this. So I have an example here of a piece of cardboard that I've cut and a piece of white paper. They're about the same size. So start by cutting those two down, and then you're gonna tape yours on. I like to, when I'm working with tape, kind of first start by sticking the tape on your clothing and like ripping it off a few times. This kind of gets rid of some of that initial stickiness, and it will help when you kind of go to take the tape off of the paper. It'll help to prevent the paper from ripping when you take it off. So once you have your paper all taped down, I'm going to recommend that you start by toning your ground. So toning your ground is basically like a fancy way of saying that you're going to paint the paper a different color. Many members of the group of 7 often started with a warm layer of paint, like a red or an orange color. And if you look closely at a lot of their work, you can still see this first layer coming through. This step helps to unify the final artwork, and it might also help you get started. Sometimes starting a drawing on a pure white page can be a little bit daunting, so I always find that by toning the ground, starting the drawing is a lot more fun. So here are a few different ways that you can tone your ground. If you have watercolor paint at home, that's awesome. You can use that. If not, you might want to look to things that you have in your cupboards. So I have 3 examples here today of like paint that I made by mixing some concoctions. So this is an example of a few different tea bags that have been steeped in tea. This is an example of turmeric that's been mixed with warm water. And this is an example of a highlighter that I just let sit in a bit of water overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and start toning my ground. So I have 3 sheets of paper stuck onto this piece of cardboard so that we can kind of see what the different tones are going to look like. So here we have an example of the tea. So you see it's giving me like a really nice light brown. Lovely. And that was made with like, I think 4 tea bags in just that little bit of water. This is the example of the turmeric. So you can see it gives me this really nice like warm yellowy color. I do have little kind of specks of turmeric that are going on the paper, but I don't really mind. I don't really care. Once this dries, I can kind of flick those off. And last but not least, I have this pink kind of highlighter color. So that's giving me like a nice bright fuchsia-y pink color. It's not quite as bright as like the actual highlighter would be because it's been diluted, but these are 3 examples of a nice kind of warm tone that you can use to tone your ground with. So once you've toned your grounds, then you're going to let that dry before you start the actual sketching process. So once you have toned all of your ground, you've painted your paper, and you've let it dry, you're going to set yourself up near a window. Okay, so I've set myself up here with all of my drying utensils, and I'm ready to go. My paper is dry. I always recommend when you're drawing from life, when you're drawing what you see, that you start by blocking in the big shapes first. So as you guys can probably see, I live in a very urban environment. All I have for a view are other buildings. So I've started here by blocking in these other buildings. So these are kind of the shapes of the buildings that I see. I like to think of drawing like this as kind of drawing in layers. So this is kind of like the first layer, the first level. And there's like basically no detail. It's just big shapes. From there, I'm gonna start to add in kind of the next layer. So I can see on this building behind me, there are different balconies. So I'm just gonna sketch out like basically just horizontal lines that will turn into balconies eventually. But I'm not going in and doing like every single balcony rung right away. I'm really starting by just trying to get the shape right, okay? So, once I finish that, you can see on this building here, I've kind of just gotten that basic level of detail. I'm gonna go back in with a pen, and now I'm gonna start to really solidify this and add in a lot more detail. So now I'm gonna get into doing like every little rung. And this is honestly just the way that I like to draw, by thinking about this in terms of like layers and levels and adding in different types of detail. But it's totally up to you. You guys can draw and engage with this however you like. You can see I have 2 examples here of buildings that would have like 3 layers of detail, okay? And those would be like finished for me. The other thing that I've done to this drawing is that I've whited out the sky. So you can see on this piece, I've just taken this easy white out, and I'm just gonna take this and white out the sky because it's a really gray, bright day outside. So the sky is actually lighter than this yellow that I've painted the paper. And it's a fun way to kind of make your artwork a little bit more dimensional. We at the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia would love to see that what you've been working on or the view from your backyard. So please share your work online and tag us on social media. So thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more lessons on Sundays from Studio from Home with the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia.